I I want to move on to our final topic, but before I do, uh, Be Gay, Do Crime wrote a bit of an essay a while back, and they are so kind to share their draft work with us, and they're totally fine with us reading it for the recording. So I'll do that now.
Yay.
Women are only seen as evil by society when they reject aspects of traditional femininity, i.e., women are only seen as evil when society deems them no longer their perception of what a woman should be. Historically, a large part of traditional femininity is to obey, end quote. And when a woman no longer obeys society's expectations of her and women as a whole, the media will immediately paint her out as either a villainous archetype or as an idiot. This isn't my favorite example, but I've seen a lot of women use the slut versus womanizer point as a way to support this argument. When a woman fails to maintain her quote meekness and her quote obedience to her father by sleeping around with a lot of men, she is deemed a slut. When a man sleeps around with a lot of women, he is not portrayed as his mother, but rather he is heralded as a quote a womanizer. When women have sexual control and independence, it is shameful or sinful, whilst a man having sexual control and independence is charming and admirable. That was Be Gay, Do Crimes short essay on the topic. Thoughts, essay?
Okay.
So I know you take, even though you're not exactly conservative, you've become much more progressive last year, you still have some traditional views and ideas. So I just want to hear
Yes,
your thoughts on
I do. I mm, I've I've seen
it. Take your time.
I nah, because I'm really trying to figure out where I want to start with this. I've seen more. Wow. I'm sorry. I don't even know where to start. I think it's sort of like the reverse when it comes to like society. I think girls in real life, or at least I have to say this disclaimer, this is my experience. I think girls in real life aren't treated as much as sluts as they are in pop culture. And I think in pop culture, men get more credit for quote unquote sleeping around than they do in real life. That's my opinion. It's really, I mean, I really got to think about it. I don't
No,
I don't want to I don't watch a
I
lot
could see that.
I don't watch a lot of movies,
Um,
so I don't watch I don't know too much pop culture. Hold on, my TV is glitching out and I don't appreciate it.
no, no,
I
I could, I get that. I feel like I don't want to say it's a non-issue, but I feel like
mhm.
there aren't. How do I say this? No one of any real moral good standing is going around encouraging men to
Yeah,
be
they're
womanized.
not this inconsistent.
Yeah, it's not. Like, odds are if someone condemning a woman for sleeping around having hookups, they're condemning a man for doing the same thing. It's
Mhm.
not as common of a thing
I
as some people or pop culture, like you said, have you.
I want to add something because I think it has to do with the genders and who they are friends with themselves. I don't think it's
Mm-hmm.
so much as like, what people say about you on the internet, but I think if I slept around with a bunch of guys, me and my girlfriends could laugh about it and joke about it and be open about it to each other. But if I'm going to enter a relationship and I talk about my sexual history, I'm more likely to be judged about it because it's the opposite sex. And I think it's the same thing for guys where they can be like, "Yeah, bro, you smashed that girl, da 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 da," and they can have those like conversations with each other. But it's the same thing when they're talking to a girl. But I think I I I do see what they're saying. Like a guy is more likely to judge a girl for her sexual history than a girl is to judge a guy for his sexual history. I think it's more common for a girl to be okay with their boyfriend having or their significant other, I should say, having a higher body count than it is for the guy to feel that way. And I think it kind of touches a little bit on the whole notion that a guy can get 100 girls pregnant in a week, but a girl can only get pregnant once a year. I think that distinction, and also like I'm sorry, so I can just elaborate on that a little bit more. Like a guy can do it as many times as he wants because there's no biological repercussions to it. But for a girl, there is, if that makes sense. Like your whole
But
vagina gets restructured.
I feel like
Yeah.
I feel like there's a bit of a perception as well that women can carry more sexual diseases than men can. Like I feel like there's a bit of a perception that it's a lot easier for a woman to transmit a disease than a man. Like you always hear about,
I've never heard of
oh,
this.
she had. Well, no, I feel like in my experience, you always hear about, oh, she had crabs, she had chlamydia, she had all sorts of STDs, or STIs, but you never really hear the reverse, the adverse of it. You never really hear, oh,
You never hear
he
guys
gave
saying
me
I
this.
have crabs.
Yeah, you never hear a woman go, he gave me this, he gave me that, but you always hear plenty of men go on to say, I got this from her, I got that from this, So I feel like there's a bit of a perception. Again, it could definitely just be influenced by media that women can carry more sexually transmitted than men. So that adds to the influence of it.
And another thing, I think women tend to want to date older guys, or if not older, more experienced. And guys tend to go for someone ever so slightly younger and ever so slightly more less experienced. And I think that's just a tendency that we have. I almost kind of want to say biologically that like we want to feel protected in a way. And whether it be by size, I like guys who are taller. That's just an example. Or whether it be by age, I like guys who are older. Um, we look for that sort of security in a man. Honestly, I feel like that's what it goes back to. So I think a girl of innocence, I guess you could say, would rather be with a guy who is experienced in different realms. So I guess a girl who is too young and has experience is like weird. Something must have happened to her. She must have been hurt. She must be a horse, a slut, sleeping around. But with a guy, it's just like, oh, that's typical. That's okay. I can accept that he has one or two more body counts than I do.
All right.
But I liked what you had to say. Be gay, do crime. I like what you had to say.
Okay. I would really like for someone more. I want a gay person to join this discussion, so I can move on to the next topic.
Carl Weezer said he was gonna hop in.
That'll be interesting. I'd like to hear his views on this.
On this particular subject, yeah, I don't mind.
I would love for BK Do Crime to join, but I know they're busy at the moment. Um,
Excuse me.
going on your views, like I said, you have a bit of more personal view. I want to know your view on the second half of the question.
Mm-hmm.
Is LGBT representation in media and pop culture needed, or is it going too far as of the 2020s? What effect does it have on our youth and society as a whole?
I don't think you want me to answer that question.
I please go right ahead. Just remember, be respectful. It's recording.
Okay. um.
But like, say you were presenting this to a board of some kind.
Yeah.
Say you were discussing this to a political sector. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah. No, I can do that totally. But it's so heavy because I do want to make clear I am somewhat I don't want to say that. Like I am a conservative, left-wing, progressive, authoritarian centrist. And and I want to make sure I make that clear that I have really, really conflicting views sometimes, and they're still being hashed out. So about representation of the LGBT. Um I think it's not it depends on the audience. It depends on who needs to see this. And I personally don't think children I was having a discussion with this in the server. By the way, join the server. I gotta plug that in. I'm sorry. Um, um, but I was having a discussion with this with someone in the server, and they didn't really what's the word? I was asking, is homosexuality genetic? And they were like, no. And I was like, okay, so it's environmental. And they were like, well, no. And I'm like, which one is it? Because if it's environmental, then it shouldn't be wrong for me to say, I don't want to have children who are homosexual. It shouldn't be wrong for me to say that. But it is, apparently. And so when we're talking about representation of homosexuality in the media, are people are I think people are going to have the right to say, I don't want my kids watching those shows because I don't want my kid to turn out that way. But that comes off as offensive because it's like, no, I was born gay. And when I say, okay, is there a gay gene? No, there isn't. Okay, so what are we doing? Like, you know what I mean? And so it gets difficult if there is no if there's no like environmental factors, I guess you could say, or like external factors that play into how it could impact children and the youth, I don't think as of right now there's too much. I think people go far
So,
with it wherever it is. I think whenever there is like a gay character or a queer character, they make it like their one-dimensional personality, and it's so sad to watch. And I think that's why a lot of people don't like watching shows like that. Like,
Carl Weezer, like to join in. Sorry to interrupt.
oh dear,
I'm
it's
gonna let
fine.
you in, Carl, but just let Esther finish.
Yeah, I think where it is yeah, I want to make this like my clear cut point. I wasn't expecting this question, so I'm just hashing it out. But clearly, I think the shows that I complain about and I take issue with are the shows that make whatever the queer or gay or trans character is, it's their whole shtick. It's their whole dynamic. They don't have any other problems outside of being gay. They don't have any other personality outside of being gay. And it's just so I don't know any other way to put it, but it's like it's so in your face about it. And I and I don't see the point in that. But I think representation of all people is important. So I guess no, I don't have an issue with, LGBTQIA PPYXYZ 123 characters in television or the media.
In media. Carl, just so you know, the current topic is more LGBT representation in media and pop culture needed, or is it going too far? What effects does it have on our youth and society as a whole?
I don't understand. I don't understand how someone's sexuality became their sole identifier of who they are. It's like, I don't care if you're gay. I just wanted to know if you wanted mustard in your sandwich. Like your sexuality is no one else's business. So I'm all for diversity and including other people's lifestyles and representing that. But when, like what Queen Esther said, when it's your personality and it's the only way people identify you, it's like, oh, it's that gay character. What? That's so like, come on, you can like what you like without fitting the stereotype of I guess acting more feminine to show that you're gay. It's like, can't a guy, who's tall, muscular, has a beard, can they not like guys either? Like, I don't understand the stig of, oh, you're a gay character, so you have to be a skinny dude wearing glasses who acts like a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can really get behind it.
It's like, that's a turnoff. It's like, oh, great, cool. Because there's a TikTok. I would like to show it to y'all, and it just went viral, of this guy in his pickup truck, who's frustrated that straight men, or he can't find any straight men to go fishing with him. The dude looks like a man's man. He's jacked. He's wearing a grunt style t-shirt. The overly patriotic t-shirts that law enforcement and veterans like to wear. Yeah, those shirts. And he's wearing a Huey hat, but he's gay and he has a beard. And he's like, I'm just so frustrated that there are no straight men that I can be buddies with and want to go fishing with. And it went viral. And all the comments when he first posted saying, "Are you sure you're gay? Because you don't look gay." I'm like, what? That's so wrong to tell someone that they don't look. So you don't look gay, so you can't be gay. You don't act gay, so you can't be gay. Whatever.
Yeah. But I feel like stereotyping can be harmful, but I think there are just trends that we as humans we see, and we're just like, okay, you fit into this box, and I think it's really, really, really easy for us to
and we all do it. We all do it. We all do it. Not just conservatives, liberals and Republicans, and Democrats and Republicans alike. We all have our certain stereotypes. They're wrong. I mean, yes, we run the odds in our head. We run the odds in our head, and we follow trends. But when you're wrong about a stereotype, it really sucks.
Yeah.
I think in media it's very important to abolish the idea of stereotypes, especially in that sense, because going back to the whole general topic of this discussion tonight, when it comes down to representation, it really embraces how people, society as a whole, see certain groups, certain individuals. So I feel like going back to like the 1930s, 1940s, Africans in cartoons and movies were portrayed as grass wearing, bone in the nose savages, cannibals, all that. That's how the majority of people were seeing them. Then they just would assume that your average African is a voodoo witch doctor that cannibalizes people. So I feel like whether your intentions are good or bad, if you're going to represent gay people or anyone really, and you decide to represent them in such a flamboyant, cartoonish manner, like,
dude, that reminded me.
Flamboyant guy.
There's a commercial that goes like, "We gotta celebrate our differences." It's going around the globe, and it goes ooga booga boo, ooga booga doo, nacho taco, chimichangas, and it's like in Mexico. I'm like, oh, that's not good. Like when it got to the Asian continent, it was like ching chong ching chong ching 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 chong. I'm like,
don't tell me that was a real commercial, please.
Dude, yeah. Oh, you got YouTube.
Oh no.
YouTube celebrate our differences. It's
There
bad.
are
But it's not
there's
being disingenuous. It wasn't meant to be racist. Like
it's not intended to be. It's just how it was at the time a very unfortunate stereotype.
right,
Oh,
right.
so
It's
it's
like
not
Like
recent.
no, I mean
I'm
it
over
is
here
sort
thinking
of
this was like
recent,
2017.
but it's saying we got to celebrate our differences, but at the same time being
Really
pretty
stereotypical.
dang racist. So it's like, yes, we got to
one,
celebrate everybody's cultures, but they're also making like the Mexican dudes in a sombrero and a poncho saying nacho taco chimichanga. Like, oh my god.
one of my favorite things to do is to watch like really old food commercials and whatnot because they were always very creative with some of their advertising. I mean,
Yeah.
old as in like 1970s, 1960s. Fritos, the chips, they used to have a mascot that was the
Oh no.
Frito, the Frito Bandito, and he was just this
Yeah.
kind of like portly, thin, mustachioed, sombrero wearing man that would just constantly go around singing "I, I." It was
Yeah.
great. There
And
was
then you start getting rid of Aunt Jemima, and then you start getting rid of the Indian woman on Land O'Lakes, and you start getting rid of the Kansas City Chiefs, and you start getting rid of the Washington Redskins.
yeah.
Then you start wanting to get rid of the Texas Rangers, and you want to start getting rid of the Dallas Cowboys. So
It's not. I feel like don't erase representation for the sake of
right,
sanity.
but they kept
But
Land O'Lakes, they kept Colonel Sanders,
you can
the
update
white
it.
guys, but
It's
they
not,
got rid of
you can
the
They got rid of all the colored representation.
right. And that's also very important where you have very famous brands that are very reputable and getting rid of your not stereotypical. I mean, they at the time minorities were not represented in any way. So for them to be be a freaking football team, and for them to be on Land O'Lakes or Aunt Jemima, probably one of the numbers one selling commodity. I mean, and get rid of come on, guys, you're getting rid of their sole representation.
Yeah.
Don't. I mean, that's
that's
America. You're like getting rid of America. That's what makes us great is our diversity.
I don't. This is a heavy.
Like getting rid of the Washington Redskins. Are you fucking kidding me? Like that's representing Native American culture. And
getting rid of them really was a good move. I feel like if you would just maybe change the name a little bit, but not fully erase it, like maybe instead of the Redskins.
I mean, it was getting even freaking racist. It was even getting really racist white people involved. Like, yeah, dude, I freaking follow the Redskins. It's my favorite team. I love the Washington Redskins. I love them. And these are racists saying that. And they're getting stoked up that their team's winning. And they're freaking celebrating Redskins. They're celebrating Native Americans. Like, that's cool. You're getting the racists to celebrate and follow a minority group.
Yeah, that's
without
great.
even knowing it. Without them even knowing it.
Hold on.
Calling them the kids is a little.
Like I don't follow the Cowboys. I don't follow the Texas Rangers. And yes, they're historically Texas Rangers were there to suppress Hispanics and Native Americans. But I'm not sitting there following the Texas Rangers because their history was of them suppressing minorities. Like, yeah, I follow the Texas Rangers because the history of the Rangers is that they suppress minorities. I'm going to follow them. Like, what? No.
To kind of steer it back around a little bit, before we go on, I'd just like to say, insert name here said something quite tragic that happened to him in his youth. I would just like to apologize to him for that. Or not apologize. He insert name here says, once when I was younger, some jerks came up to me and my friend, we were both straight, and told my friend, quote, "You sound gay," and then proceeded to say, "We don't support you," and spit on him.
Wow.
What?
Very sorry you and your friend had to go for that when you were younger.
Yeah. I was sexually assaulted.
Oh.
I think I mentioned that. I think I mentioned that in the server.
I'm sorry.
Did I?
I am
don't think
very.
so.
I don't. You might have. We go through so much. I am very
Right,
sorry.
of course. Yeah.
Be gay, do crime also mentions I'm a semi-closeted lesbian, out to everyone except my family, who has grown up in a conservative household. And if there's one thing gay people could not possibly be more aware of if they tried, is that people do not support us. It is something we are reminded of every day of our lives, and I haven't even been alive all that long.
Now I feel really fucking bad. I mean, I know a little bit of what it feels like to have like your existence constantly being politicized,
Uh-huh.
and it's not fun. And then when I realize, oh shit, Esther, you're kind of doing it right now, I'm like,
Yeah, I think
oh.
it's wrong. I think it's wrong.
I mean,
Like,
it feels
would I have a
wrong,
problem
but
with
it's
it?
like, oh, it's almost like
Yeah.
important for it
Oh,
to
100%.
for it to happen. Yeah, what were you gonna
But
say?
the problem I have right now are these white people who are telling minorities that they're suppressed, or telling black people like you will never be successful because of your skin color. You're going to always be oppressed. You can't become successful in the United States. What the fuck?
Oh,
That's so wrong on
Morgan,
such a level. Is like, why are you so obsessed with minorities wanting to be oppressed? I don't. Maybe it's me, but I'm not going to go up to some black person and be like, "Oh, because of white people, you're never going to become successful."
welcome Borbican to the discussion. Please feel free to share your thoughts.
No,
Welcome.
that's
Hello.
kind of, that's my take.
I hope you can understand me well because English is not my first language.
That's okay.
Dude,
No.
I love Prison Mike though.
Nick.
So I just want to go back to Be Gay Do Crimes message. I actually replied genuine question, what does supporting mean? Because I am personally a Christian. And I'm not the Christian that because you're gay you will go to hell. I'm not that kind of Christian.
Hello.
Yeah. Did you finish?
Can I get that? He might have crashed. Hold on, I'm gonna tag him.
Because I'm also Christian,
Same.
and I'm not a huge fan of homosexuality. But I'm not one of those Christians that goes out my way to tell homosexuals that they're not going to be with God.
They're not gonna make it. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I was dealing with somebody like that just not even a couple days ago.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, no. Like, I
It's
don't agree with homosexuality, but I'm not going to go out my way and tell you, "Oh, you're gay, you're going to hell." Dude,
like
that's so wrong.
yeah. I mean, I
We're
was
we're
raised
called
by
to be more
parents like
loving.
that.
We're called to be more loving and accepting of the person, not necessarily
The action.
their lifestyle, but be
Yeah.
accepting of them.
Mm-hmm. And I was so afraid, like when Raven asked me the question to discuss like homosexuality in the media and what it does to the youth. I was like, I don't want to answer this. Excuse me, I don't want to answer this. Okay, yeah, go ahead, just run over.
Oh, sorry, Esther. Borbican, are you able to speak now? No. Okay.
Do your Prison Mike impression.
Oh no.
There's just no sound coming from.
Nacho Taco, Chimichangas.
Yeah, this is our standby music.
Not muted. I don't know what's wrong.
Ooga booga goo. Ooga booga goo.
Borbican, if you would like to, you could just type out your messages, and I'll feel free to read them for you.
So unfortunate. He or she had a very nice.
Hold on, I'll be right back.
Okay. Yeah, she. You've been saying he this whole time. So rude. Misgendering.
Especially with the third topic at hand.
I know. Right?
I want to get Carl's opinion on this. I'll ask him when he comes back. Like I said, Barbican, if you would like, you could just type out your messages. I'll be happy to read them for you. To steer it back, though, how do you think it affects our youth and society to have so many gay or just gay-like or code characters in media?
I think it normalizes basic what's the word? Self-authorship. That's gonna be my new phrase from now on. Self-authorship. I think it creates people's ability to sort of like define already existing terms and just define them in their own way. And to me, that can be a little bit problematic. To me, I find issue with it, because I don't know, sometimes I think boxes can be helpful. But people don't want to fit into boxes anymore. So, because even if someone doesn't, what's the word? Even if someone doesn't identify as homosexual, they can act that way. And I know, I hate that it sounds offensive when I say that, but you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say act gay.
You're trying to say you feel like that even if someone isn't gay, they can say an impressionable youth. They can be influenced to reenact how they witness a character acting in media.
Yeah, and I don't think it's inherently bad, but I think there's just gonna be some weird things to come out of it. To me, I don't have a problem with. Let me not make it about myself. But I can see how people have. No, I don't want to make it about myself because then I'm gonna take it personal and then it's gonna just spiral from there. But I can see how people take issue or they don't take issue with their son playing with like dolls, but the idea of their son wanting to wear dresses is really fucking weird. I can understand that emotion for people, but that's what I feel like this is gonna bring about. And then, the whole like gender is a social construct conversation and how like it should be normal for a man to wear a dress and it should be normal for a girl to wear suits, even though that was probably way more normal before men wearing dresses. I'm actually not too sure about that, but at least I can say in Western society, I don't think it's been that normal. But just things like that can concern people. It's weird. It's not what we know as normal, and normal is just what you're used to. So people are not used to seeing their sons wearing dresses to school, and it's just weird.
I know.
I feel like it's gonna bring about weird things that just don't sit well with older generations.
I feel like this isn't a new problem. Like a lot of people want to go on and say that this is like a brand new 21st century issue of oh, they got to make everything gay and weird now. But I feel like the idea of people being worried about media perverting or indoctrinating or anything of that sort, doing something to our youth isn't anything out of the ordinary. I'd say as far back as the early 1900s, 1930s and 40s at the least, people have been concerned about media such as comic books, right? That's a big thing. That's like the main source of children's entertainment, teenage entertainment in the 1940s and 30s. For the longest time, people have been concerned about comic books. Oh, they're influencing our youth violent. They're encouraging them to be criminals, homosexual. A wonderful quote, actually, from the book, The Seduction of the Innocent by Frederick Wharton. Um, the Batman type of story may stimulate children to homosexual fantasies of the nature of which they may be unconscious. Only someone ignorant of the fundamentals of psychiatry and the psychopathology,
Yeah, you're
psychopathology
having fun?
have only someone ignorant of the fundamentals of psychiatry and the psychopathology of sex can fail to realize the subtle atmosphere of homoeroticism which pervades the events of the mature, quote, Batman and his young friend, Robin. It's not anything new to be concerned about how media affects the youth, and specifically the idea of the cartoons are turning my son gay.
What? Yeah.
Was as far back as the 1940s, people were concerned about that, and there's nothing inherently like gay about a superhero comic, but just the idea of a man in tights running around with a teenage boy in tights is questionable to most people. And it's not just down to the idea of like homosexuality and all that. It's down to the idea of people were genuinely concerned about things like this. People wanted to ban media that depicted horror because they assumed it was going to inspire their children to commit acts of horror, to be violent criminals, stabbers, and murderers. People wanted to remove things like superheroes because they believed they would encourage children to go and act vigilante justice. Even as far back as these last few years, video games and whatnot, it's been an ongoing debate. Oh, violent video games make our children violent. I feel like it's not so much just down to people being afraid that cartoons will turn someone gay, or movies, comics, music, anything. People are just afraid that any media will have a negative effect on children. I feel like we have to draw a certain line, though, because obviously the video games aren't turning the normal child into a violent mass murderer.
Yeah.
Obviously, not every kid that reads Batman, Superman are going out and becoming violent vigilante activists. So, what is making people think that if a kid reads a comic with a gay character, they're going to become gay?
I don't like your question. It upsets and attacks me. Because I'm just like, yeah, who, like, what, part of me is like, yeah, what dumbass would think, like, a kid would want to just turn into Batman? And then you're like, okay, so why are you so scared about your kid turning gay? And I'm like, all right, now we're attacking each other, I see. No, but, that's such a fucking good question.
I would love for Carl to join back. Mr. Minority, welcome to the audience. If you would like
out.
If you would like to speak, Mr. Minority, please join in. We're discussing LGBT representation in media, and currently our current discussion is about.
Hi. I can't hear any one of you guys. I don't know if the speaker settings, but okay. Hi. I would like to begin to list who I am. My name is Mr. Minority. Our real name you can ask Hollow. My question is
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyways, as we were discussing, no, you were speaking, I think.
Go ahead.
No, you were speaking.
Mr. Minority, go ahead.
No, I muted him because I knew he was gonna be. What does he want?
I can hear him. Mr.
Oh,
Minority,
you can
please,
hear him.
go ahead.
Oh,
Hello?
I didn't server.
Yes, Mr. Minority, I can hear you.
Hi. So, my name is Mr. Minority. My real name, you can ask Hollow. My question goes to Esther.
Yes.
Alright.
Okay. So Esther was talking about feminism and how there were different sects of it, of white and black feminism. So I would like Esther to dive just to explain herself a little bit on what kind of feminism she aligns herself with, because from what I know about Esther, as an upper middle class individual, would she fall under the category of white feminism rather than black feminism?
Yeah, that is actually an excellent question. And no, I'm going to build on top of it. I'm going to build on top of that because there have been some times, granted, I know I've said multiple times.
Does anyone know how to make my thing go into speaker mode? Because I can't hear anything.
I don't know if you can do speaker mode on
That's fucking autistic. On an unrelated note, pro-Israeli, aka Maddie, decided to go.
Stop.
Minority, we are on a recorded discussion right now.
Oops. Okay, you can cut that out. Just cut me out.
I muted you, but
Okay, cool.
Oh no, you didn't.
I'm actually serious about my question.
No, I muted on my end.
No.
It's not gonna record.
Okay.
Because it can't.
Okay. Are we recording again now?
No. I didn't. Yes, it's still recording. I just muted Mr. Minority's microphone on my end.
Okay.
Wait, is this going on the iDebates YouTube channel?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay.
Yes.
So am I going to get my question answered?
Yes. Hold on. I'm going to build on your question before I goes answer. Excellent question, actually.
I hate his question.
It's something I want to build on just a little bit. The fact that I've said it multiple times during this recording, your views have changed a fair amount over the last year. But I know when we've had some discussions, you have mentioned that you don't feel. To bring it back to our little note about experiences, you have said that you don't feel that you can give an accurate representation of the full black experience in America.
Mm-hmm.
So, building on the minority's question of what sect of feminism would you say you fall on, would it be fair for you to say that you fully belong in an idea of black feminism?
I don't belong anywhere, and I'm not trying to discuss like my mental issues about like about where I belong, but I mean I've never fit into one particular glove when it comes to this. I am not even Black American. I am Caribbean, so that's another thing that distinguishes me. And with that being said, you know, I didn't grow up in like the voodoo part of like my home country, but I grew up in the Christian part. My dad was raised Catholic, and he became Protestant, and my mom is Protestant. So
that's not
we
based.
are very, very religious and deeply religious and understand the roles. I heard my dad tell my mom the other day, you know, who did God create first? The man, right? And he was pretty much telling my mom that she has no place to ask him a whatever question. And, you know, so I was raised in a home like that. And so when we're talking about these feminist movements and we're discussing, I mean, I don't even want to talk about the suffrage movement because that's the first feminist movement, obviously, you know, giving women the right to vote. But if we're going to be talking about feminism in a way of like, you can do whatever you set your mind to, and it doesn't matter if you're a woman, you should be able to do a STEM. My parents, I don't think there was a single woman in my family that isn't a nurse outside of my sister and I. There's not a single one of them. My older cousin They're nurses. All of my aunts are nurses. My mom, everybody, my godmother, they're all nurses. And so, was it because I'm still not sure if it's because they're women or it's because they know that field makes a lot of money. And I know my parents care a lot about money. And so it could be that, but I think it's interesting because I think my parents, my immediate family is more liberal out of the rest of my family. So I could have been worse. So I could have been worse if I was one of my aunt's children or my uncle's children. But so where do I fall when it comes to this? When it comes to these feminist movement, I think women have a huge responsibility, like I said before, about taking care of children. We are better at it. It's just a fact. I don't care what anybody says. We are better at it. Yes, both men and women are needed, but we have that inherent connection with our children. We're supposed to biologically. We need to be taking care of kids, and we need to be around kids, and it's just what we're good at. It's what nature gave us. But does that mean that women shouldn't become lawyers or women can't be CEOs? No, I don't think so at all. I think if you are good at it, do it. That's my opinion. And so those are my thoughts on the feminist movement. I would say so.
Oh, so you have a very moderate view of it. I would say, yeah, moderate. You're very moderate in the feminist.
I could have
You
shortened
obviously
everything I said just by using that word. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I appreciate the explanation. I would say moderate works for you because you obviously have a personalist idea in the sense of your religion, wanting to raise a family and that, but of course you don't want to just go and become a nurse. You don't want to be the meek. You would like some weight in society.
Yeah. I think women have the ability to set their minds to whatever they want. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, our brains are just different. We're supposed to be, I think we're better off in the home. I think we are desperately needed in the home, especially today. But, I'm never going to tell a woman personally, you're not supposed to be doing that. I would never say to a woman's face, you're not even supposed to be in this position. Like, go back into the kitchen. I would never say that to somebody.
Of course. Mr. Minority,
I was just about to ask him, did I answer his question?
Excuse me, can you please repeat that?
I was just going to ask you, did I answer your question?
Yes and no. You kind of like wiggled your way around it, but you actually kind of answered it, so it's all right. I just had a very nice observation while you were mentioning Christianity, Catholicism. I just find it a little, it's a big coincidence how a lot of these major religions put women in more of a subservient type of position in a lot of households, or and almost every household. And I was wondering if what is your point of view on that based on religious texts, and should people still follow those religious texts even though we're in a very progressive society?
So my thoughts on, I'm sorry, just so I'm clear, my thoughts on like the position that women have.
My thoughts are, what are your thoughts on these religious texts that keep women in a subservient position, especially now in a progressive world?
Well, I mean, to an extent, I think they're right.
Welcome back, Carl.
Hi, Carl.
Go ahead.
I think that we brain fart.
Take your time.
Yeah, see, women aren't meant for this. See how difficult it is for me to come up with these sentences. I'm not supposed to be here. I think that there is some truth to that. I don't think that anywhere in the Bible does it says that a woman can't be any of these things, any of the things that I listed about being a doctor or a scientist or things like that. But it does heavily discuss the responsibilities of raising children and the mother and daughter relationship and the relationship that men have with women. I personally don't mind having like the man being the head of the household, being the breadwinner, being the person who's responsible for, like, I guess, more difficult things. I don't take issue with that. So, but I don't think the Bible says women can't do certain things. I don't think women can be priests though, or like pastors, but like
I
outside of
know in
that, huh?
I know in Catholicism, women priests are kind of like very, very rare.
Yeah.
And I know there are some, there are some places in which that does happen, but it's in just to see that actually happen.
Yeah. And I think you bring about a good, I'm sorry, Raven, but I think you bring about a good point because, you know, with this whole discussion, we've been talking about representation in media and
There
politics
we go.
and things like that, but we never really discussed representation in religion, which is funny to me. Because
Yeah,
that's a whole other realm, in my opinion. But
It really is.
there's a whole
it's
like book that tells us what to do, so I guess there isn't much to say because God is just like, nah, I didn't say y'all could do that, and we're like, oh, okay, you know.
Well, it's good to
yeah.
discuss how that affects our ideas of representation, media, and politics. So, because obviously there is a direct influence in most people's lives from religion.
I just, for myself personally, I just want to be a man of God so I can guide those who I love spiritually and physically. As a man, I was given the responsibility, I was inherited the responsibility to take care of those who are underneath me. And what I mean by underneath me, not equally, like they're not below me, they're not my servants. Like, if I may use a personal experience, parents are going through a divorce right now. My dad moved out. He moved on. I have my mom and my sister here. Yes, my mom is my authority, but now I was inherited the obligation to step up as a man to lead now my family.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm glad I have that responsibility. I'm glad I have the ability to take on that role. Because now my mom and my sister, even though my mom's the authority, she's not really the authority if you get what I'm putting down. Like, yes, she still makes the rules of the house. She's our mom. But now she is looking for someone to guide her and to cling onto when times get tough.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. It's not a choice. I'm not telling her to do this. But that's just how everything's wired and set up to be.
Yeah, the dynamic of the family
The
changes.
exactly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
There's not some system. There wasn't some dude who's just writing down rules somewhere saying, okay, yep, the men are going to be the rulers of the house. They're going to be the leaders of the house. They're going to be the authority of the house because they're a man. I mean, that dude was God. And he wrote morality, and morality is written on all our hearts. And that's just how we're wired. Can't help it. Just how it is.
Speaking of things regarding religion and gender roles and sexuality, Captain v. Captain made an interesting point in the text chat, and I would like to read it now. And I'll also read Be Gay, Do Crime's response to it. Captain v. Captain says, there is certainly a more correct sexuality in terms of religion, any sort of biological purpose to life, social problems, unhealthiness of more LGBTQ couples relative to straight ones, raising children, etc. Meanwhile, there isn't really a correct tree. They all have nothing to do with each other, they just exist. Sexuality doesn't exist, it affects things and people. Who would Be Gay, Do Crime respond, it affects people because of society. the purpose of life being reproduction is a belief. Religion is a belief. Social issues are influenced by society. Society has created a sense of, quote, correct sexuality. Homosexuality occurs in nature other than humans, you know. Everyone's thoughts on that?
Wait, homosexuality is revenge? Is that what they said?
Who? Be gay, do crime, or Captain be Captain?
Be gay, do crime. I'm sorry.
No. They said it affects people because society, the purpose of life being reproduction, is a belief. Religion is a belief. Social issues are influenced by society. Society has created the sense of a correct sexuality. Homosexuality occurs in nature other than humans.
Okay.
Captain be Captain, if you would like to join the call and discuss, please feel free.
That would be great, Captain the Captain.
You just have to request the call. I can invite.
I apologize. Can I get the Burbs' opinion on my question about how they feel about religion's position on, women being subservient in today's progressive world? No, you don't have to go on a big spiel about it like Miss Esther.
Oh no, of course. You see, I'm not really an Abrahamic believer. I'm gonna let you join the call, Captain. We're just gonna finish up my answer before you may. I'm not an Abrahamic believer, not basically. I have a more spiritualistic sense, so I don't really care too heavily about what a 1,000,000,000-year-old book says on, oh, you should do this role, you should kill that. I feel like at the time it was written, very important maybe. Same reason why at the time the Quran was written, or the Talmud, Torah, the idea of eating pork was very bad, because wild pigs carried several diseases, but in modern times you would get very clean meat. It's important for the time they were written in. I feel like in our current society, some of the rules laid down are not. Did I answer your question, Mona?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, it did answer my question. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Can I say something? Were we in the middle of discussing? Did you want to talk about what they were saying in the chat, or can I just say something?
If Captain the Captain would like to go ahead, he's free to. You there, Captain?
Yes.
Hi.
I mean, the discussion was about whether or not it's, I mean, it kind of shifted, but I think at the point that I responded, it was talking about whether or not sexuality is even able to be, like, whether it's even valid to discuss it, because Be Gay Do Crime was saying that it's not a belief. There is nothing to accept or believe because it just is. And they compared it to, they said saying I do not accept homosexuality is like saying I do not accept a certain species of trees. And that's when I responded, there's certainly a more correct sexuality in terms of religion, biological purpose, and social problems.
I found it.
And I was going to say something. I just it moved on, but I don't think that the thought that it's not even able to be discussed because it just is kind of silly. They're literally discussing it now. I think it's her and Unit.
All right. I get where you're coming from with that. The idea that it's not something that needs to be discussed. They're saying it's not something that needs to be discussed because, oh, it just is. You can't change it. But no, I get where you're coming from. Just because something can't necessarily be altered doesn't mean it can't be talked about. Right?
Right, and I mean, you can alter it, really. You can. I mean, you can't change what someone is, but you can place restrictions, especially on the more outward. I don't know how to say it.
The more
You can discourage the acceptance of things like I can't. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know how to say what I'm trying to say.
Are you trying to explain like there can be movements that can discourage like I don't know like the normalization of something such as homosexuality or same love, something like that? That's what I'm kind of gathering from what you're trying to say.
This is why I type instead of talk.
Oh no, it's totally
Understandable.
It's okay.
The original discussion was about whether like representation in pop culture, right?
Yes, that's what we were originally
Well, it
discussing.
didn't have to be pop culture. It was just representation in general.
Right.
The general topic of this whole session has been about representation. The main theme, though we've certainly deviated a little bit for the last hour, has been about gay representation in media, and specifically, how does it affect the youth and our society as a whole?
Well, there's certainly more. I mean, I guess we can't really tell if it's more gay people or just more people willing to say that they're gay. And I'm pretty sure that's why, or one of the reasons, or one of the like arguments why there should be more to like encourage people to be what they are. But then there's also the argument that maybe it's changing the way people think, because Unit said, oh, maybe it's evolution's response to overpopulation.
Wow.
But maybe it's also just
You think it could be what's the word? You think it can be influenced?
Who's the dude with the dogs?
I'm sorry?
The guy who trained his dogs to salivate when he rang a bell?
Pavlov?
Pavlov.
Pavlov.
Yeah.
I was thinking Pavel.
Oh.
I think that's a composer. Whatever.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Pavlov. It is Pavlov, right?
Yeah, Pavlov.
I mean, if you think about it, Pavlov kind of was a composer.
But no. So I get what you're trying to say then. So yeah, it can be. I cannot think of the proper word. Indoctrinated is the best word I could think of. You think it can be indoctrinated?
I wouldn't say that having a gay person in a show makes other people turn gay, but the increasing, like, I feel like it's gone beyond acceptance. It's like
now it's
how anti or quote unquote anti-racism is like going beyond just not being racist. I think it's gone to the point where, like, in media, it's like pushed almost. So the fact that it's being so, I say over accepted, but that's not like what I actually mean. like beyond accepted. I guess that's the fact that it's gone beyond accepted. People are like encouraged almost. And I think that aids in it.
Do you believe in horseshoe theory, if you're familiar with it?
You got like really quiet for the last half of that. What was that?
I'm sorry. Do you believe in horseshoe theory, if you're familiar with it?
What theory?
Horseshoe.
Horseshoe?
Yes.
I don't know what that is.
It's the belief that if you go so far in a certain ideology, you essentially boomerang back around into a reversal. So, in the sense of being anti-racism, many would say that it's gone so far now that some people are becoming racist themselves, anti-white in a sense. Would you believe that?
I wouldn't say it's gone so far as to be like anti-straight, if that's what you're saying.
I thought we were talking about race.
Well, we're talking about in general, but I was just using that as an example.
I've seen it in both race and sexuality. I've seen it to the point where I've seen like a lot of like accounts on Twitter like anti-straight, anti-cis, anti all of this. And it just radiates like, you know, what's that one church that like does all the homophobic stuff? Something Baptist something? I don't want to give a false name, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's like F words, go to hell or something like that. Those people that used to hold up the signs. And that's like, I associate horseshoe theory more with the racism thing, because people are like, oh yeah, you know, white people are oppressors, white people were colonizers, you know, white people did this, white people did that, and then it eventually goes into white people are evil, white people aren't people, white people do this, white people should be second-class citizens.
Wow.
And
it's
very scary, because then you have groups like Antifa, and who are, you know, dressing in all black, attacking white individuals solely because of their race. And what group does that sound like to you? It just radiates major Ku Klux Klan vibes.
Yeah.
And it's very scary to know that things like this are happening in our modern day. Like, we have actual anti-white groups, when not even like 60 years ago we were having, you know, civil rights movements held. We had civil rights movements that were actually helping us get towards more equality and towards improving race relations. And now with our current political climate, it's like 60 years, and all of the hard work has just been torn down. I don't know if any of you guys feel this way, but I personally feel this way.
Yeah, no. I see what you're saying 100%. Like, it's kind of ironic what we've done. It reminds me of that saying where it's like, hard times create strong men create better times, and better times create weak men, and then weak men create hard times. The whole like full circle, how like we can't seem to. I think that's why I asked that daily question of like, do you think we ever learn from our history? It's like we keep saying racism is wrong, and then we're pointing the finger at. I'm not exactly too sure about Antifa. I don't know too much about Antifa, but I've heard of like some attacks going on in Portland, against just random people in the streets, who were white. But I forgot where I was going with that. But like, just yeah, the question of like, do we ever learn from our history? Because we just it's like, yeah, like racism is bad, and white people were racist first, so we should hate all white people. not realizing how it's racism, and also the invention of the word reverse racism, as if it's not just plain old racism. But okay. And then
I definitely
telling,
agree with that.
huh? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and like telling black people that they can't be racist. That doesn't make any sense to me either, because that's almost in and of itself racist. But go ahead.
I was going to say I 100% agree with that sentiment that you can't say it's reverse racism because racism isn't inherent to just white against black. It's racism as a whole. If that's the case, can Asian people be racist? Can Latinos be racist? Can
Yeah.
not
And
certainly white Europeans be racist?
yeah, and there was a whole thing. Oh, this was my favorite thing. There was a whole thing about like how like you have to be there's like a new definition of racism, how you have to be in a position of power in order to be racist, and that's
Exactly.
why only white people
And,
can do
and
it.
that and that's just stupid. That
It
doesn't make
is
any sense.
because like okay, Obama was president for 8 years. That's a pretty
Yeah, I
hefty
mean, does
position
that
of
mean
power.
Obama was racist for
But he
years?
could only be racist for that for that duration of time.
He had his racism card. It expired in 2016.
Wait, the racism card
Unfortunately,
expired?
he didn't get renewed. Yes, it expires. You have to get renewed. Unfortunately, Obama did not get renewed.
He could not, unfortunately. I'm dead. I'm dead. That was my
So,
favorite thing.
actually, a question for everyone. It just popped in my head. What group do you believe is the least represented in our country right now?
Native Americans.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Wow.
We're all in
Twin.
sync. Now here's
I would
another.
agree with that.
I would agree with you guys too, but
Transgendered
don't
Native Americans.
but don't Native Americans have their own jurisdiction inside their own reservations?
Yes.
So would that make?
I'm
them
not saying
truly
it's a
the least
problem that they're
representative?
underrepresented.
Yeah, I'm
just saying
I'm saying.
that's probably who it is.
Wait, you're saying it's not a problem?
I mean, my whole thing was that representation is kind of dumb and we shouldn't force it.
Did you know our country was founded on representation?
No taxation, bro.
I'm not talking about legal representation.
Now this is also about.
Oh wait,
Well, I mean,
we're not talking about legal representation. I thought that's what the whole.
We were talking about it in like pop culture, weren't we?
Yeah.
Like
we did have. We touched slightly upon the representation in legal figures. So by all means, feel free to bring it up. However, for the majority, we were discussing about media representation and workforce representation.
Yeah. We did touch upon legal representation, but I think it was mostly pop culture. I think we got into pop culture when we were talking about the homosexuality and LGBTQ community.
But about like that horseshoe thing, that's not really what I was trying to say. The reason I mentioned Pavlov is because like the whole thing where like you say like you start saying something ironically to make fun of it, and you eventually find yourself saying it a bunch.
Yep.
Oh, I see.
Or how apparently I just heard this on the radio. I don't know if it's true, but apparently, if you pee in the shower too much, you might start having to go pee whenever you hear running water. I don't know how true that one is. Or maybe you, because like the more it's accepted, people don't really care. So like maybe they find out I'm starting to feel gay. There's no problem with that. And I'm not saying there necessarily is a problem with it. I'm just saying people are more open to themselves being gay. So when you maybe you watch gay porn or something and you start, well, you know what you do with porn. So maybe that has a part in it. And I'm not trying to say that I'm not like the the Burb asked Unit if he wanted to join the discussion on does representation turn youth gay. That's not what I was really trying to say. I was more saying wider acceptance of it makes people less likely to really care if they feel like they are. And then once they feel like they are, it just goes from there.
Okay. To just clarify, I wasn't saying that when we asked Unit that, I wasn't trying to say that was your point.
Yeah.
That was just trying to incentivize them to come in. So what you're saying is you believe that with the current model of representation, the current standard, let's say, we are essentially Pavloving our youth into finding no issue with certain behaviors, certain communities.
Not necessarily that. I'm saying it. It makes them care less if they think they are, or if in the Pavloving comes from actual like essentially the way like people call it fetishization. Same way that forms. And I'm not really able to get my point out very well because I have to go do something.
Okay.
Well, thank you for being with us. We greatly appreciate you taking your time.
He has a nice voice.
Sure.
Okay. All right. See you around.
All right, thank you, Captain. Now it's interesting. The Native American thing. I don't think we've really discussed Native Americans once, except for the brief Redskins mentioned by Carl.
Mm-hmm.
Can we not refer to them as Redskins, please?
No, I'm saying
You're talking about
the team name, the football team.
Oh, I apologize. I am part Native American myself, so.
No, without context, I fully understand.
Yeah. All I heard was Redskins, and I was like, oh, okay.
He's like, my people?
For the life of me, I can't think of any prominent media that's come out in the last 10 years that has any genuine Native representation.
Ha, you're wrong. King of the Hill.
I said last 10 years.
King of the Hill, and then in 2012.
Okay, that's fair, but I wouldn't say John Redcorn is a really great representation of Native characters.
No, but his son is. I forget his name. I'm blanking on his name.
Joseph Gribble.
Joseph, yeah, Joseph. Joseph's a really fine individual.
Yep,
by fine, I mean a well-raised individual.
Yeah.
Can we please cut that part out?
I'd say that's fair, but it would be ironic in a way because in King of the Hill, Joseph isn't raised by John Redcorn. He's raised by Dale, a very stereotypical nerdy white guy. So, I mean, I wouldn't say John Redcorn is like a stereotype of natives in any way. I mean, he's a strong character, but he's also a womanizing, jealous archetype of a man. So I feel like that's not the best representation.
I mean, you know what? No, I'm not gonna say that.
No, please enlighten us. What were we gonna say? No, please, enlighten us.
Please.
It wasn't gonna be good. It wasn't gonna be good.
No, just say it.
No, you were just saying how like, oh, it's like bad representation because he was like a womanizer, and I'm just like, what's so bad about that? But that's all I was gonna say.
Yeah, I'm not
Okay,
gonna lie. John
I
Redcorn
mean,
did have juice, so
What?
let me rephrase it. It's not so much that he's a womanizer. He was actively trying to break up a relationship between a father and a son.
Oh, that's not
And yeah, I mean, it was his genetic son, but he was never really involved in his life. The kid didn't even know that he's his father. He only knew the character Dale as his father, and John Redcorn was constantly trying to separate them. And it just comes off as obsessive and creepy in a way. I mean, it's understandable that a man would want to be with his genetic son, but I remember one episode that sticks out about it. It was I think, a Thanksgiving episode. Minority probably will know what I'm talking about. Where John Redcorn makes this whole big thing about trying to convince Joseph to hate white people, and in doing so, he accidentally convinces the main character, Hank Hill's son Bobby, a portly, fat white kid, white people are, quote, white devils, and that they stole the land from the natives.
I vaguely remember that episode. I'm not going to admit. I am going to admit that I am not a major King of the Hill connoisseur,
Me neither.
but I
I
do
am
know
not
a
either.
few
I only
select
remember.
episodes.
Yeah.
You literally just quoted like a whole episode, and you're like, "Nah, I'm not
Yeah.
really a fan of King of the Hill."
No, I only remember that one episode because it has a extremely memorable scene where the kid like lifts a Thanksgiving platter up, and he made like a diorama of a white person's head, and he goes on to say, "This is what Native Americans ate."
Oh my god. But yeah, I mean, going back to the question, there isn't much Native American, trans, lesbian representation anywhere.
But
So,
again, Native Americans operate on their own jurisdiction, so I don't even think they can vote for our president, can they?
I'm not sure. I don't know
Well,
anything.
here's
Time to look
the
this
thing
up.
about it. From my knowledge,
Is this guy using a
they
typewriter? Is he using a typewriter?
from my knowledge, they do have to follow U.S. legal code and regulation. However, within their own territories, basically, how say a state has to respond to federal law, but they still have their own local jurisdiction. It's the same thing with native law. On the land, the native nations, they have their own local jurisdiction, regulations, and laws. They have their own police force, local elections. However, they still have to answer to the higher authority, that being federal law. They have some exemptions, like only natives can possess certain natural items, like eagle feathers, right? No non-native person in the United States of America may harvest any eagle parts or parts of other certain animals. But native communities are allowed to do that as long as it is part of a religious, uh,
Yeah.
a religious event.
No, I understand. I understand what you're trying to say. I'm actually looking if I had to type on a typewriter because that's the only keyboard I have right now. But
Okay.
that's why if you guys wondered if the typing was too loud. But I from what I can gather here, Native Americans do have some voting rights.
I mean,
And that's
they're
all I can gather.
They're U.S. citizens. They have to vote.
Can you imagine,
However,
like, not having the right to vote in the country that you literally, like, started?
Legally, Native Americans on their own jurisdiction. So
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know. Andrew Jackson
like,
wasn't too nice to them.
was it Andrew Jackson?
Yes, it was.
well, like I said, they have their own local jurisdiction, but they still have to answer to a higher authority. Like, if you commit mass tax fraud on a native reservation, you're still going to go to federal jail and face the IRS.
I don't know.
But
I don't, I believe in no taxation without representation. So if I feel that my Native American ancestors don't feel represented by the government, they don't owe the federal government anything.
Actually, that's something I was just about to bring up, Esther. Without representation, can you think of a single Native individual in government right now, besides what her name is? That's like 1/16th karaoke.
She's literally doing nothing and has no power.
Interesting. So I just found this out. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're
But
fine.
there are some acts that the Native Americans are not subject to, and a very, very big one is the NFA, which is a
Really?
National Firearms Act. So basically, if tribal police departments want NFA items, they have to go through the ATF, get it there, and they can do whatever they want with them.
Interesting.
It's really interesting. There are tax exempt transfers of NFA items.
Well,
What
there
is
we go.
NFA?
There's no taxation without representation.
Yeah, looks like I'm gonna get machine guns from my local
Yeah,
reservation.
let's not say
Can we please?
that.
Yeah, can we please cut that out, please?
No, I'm not editing this video at all.
Okay, awesome. But
There's so much you'll have to edit from this video.
it's just very interesting.
You're gonna hate me so much, Raven. You're gonna hate
I'm
me so
afraid.
much, but I'm gonna tell you after we're done.
She's not recording. She is not recording.
I'm not gonna.
Esther.
I'm not gonna say it now. I'm not gonna say it now.
Esther
I think this discussion has been going great, and I'm not gonna kill the vibe with what I have to tell you.
This
Yes.
has been going on for 2.5 hours. Please tell me you've been recording.
I've been recording.
Are you still recording?
Yeah, I'm still recording.
Then
Okay, I believe.
then what's happening?
I'm not gonna say it now. It's just gonna kill the vibe. And I think we've been vibing pretty hard, so I'm not gonna kill the vibe. No.
That's very interesting. I didn't know that Native Americans were not subject to the NFA.
Minority, you weren't here earlier, but for the sake of it, I want to ask you. We had 2 earlier questions, sort of like little connected topics. We started off with this one. I want to get your opinion on this. Are Black people limited to rap and hip hop in the music industry? And are they underrepresented behind the scenes of other creative industries?
Okay, the second one you have to repeat, but the first one, someone automatically came into mind, and Esther, you know exactly who I'm about to mention right now.
I don't.
Okay, so Frank Ocean.
Oh, yeah,
Sorry.
Totally. I was thinking that.
Beautiful voice. He is not limited to rap or hip hop in any way. He can sing if he wants. He can do whatever he wants. If you want some good references, there's a lot of collaboration songs he did with Tyler the Creator. Really, really great. I feel like any song in which Frank Ocean is featured is gonna be phenomenal. And what was your R. Kelly?
Wow.
the whole situation, what's going on with him. We're not discussing that right now, but entertainment wise, R. Kelly was not limited to hip hop or rap at all. I think he was R&B, right? Was that his
R&B.
main genre? It was R&B. I think if you asked anyone to name one famous R&B singer, it would either have to be R. Kelly or
Mary J. Blige.
I don't know who that is, so no, that doesn't count. I'm sorry, I do not know who that is. I'm sorry. Moving on. Raven, what was your second question?
Wait.
The second question was:
The boy just said
Are
he doesn't know who Mary J. Blige is.
Are Black people underrepresented behind the scenes of other creative industries?
How do you not?
Other creative. Okay. Let's continue on Nestor's thing. I feel like Mary J. What?
Mary J.
Uh,
Blige.
Wait, I
You
feel like I know
know
this
her.
person.
You
Wait.
do, bro. What?
Oh yeah, I know her.
Dang. What's wrong with
I didn't know that
you?
was her name.
Somebody come get him.
I'm sorry. I didn't. I.
Nah, just keep going.
I apologize. I mean, wait.
Yo, whose Android phone is vibrating like that?
Okay. Your second one. Are Black people underrepresented? Wait, did I just see Dr. Dre in this music video? Oh, I just did. Okay. And your second question was, I'm sorry, you have to repeat yourself. Oh, he's gone. I think it was, are Black people?
I'm still here.
Oh, I asked you to repeat your question.
I said, this is the third time now. Are Black people underrepresented behind the scenes of other creative industries?
Other creative industries. That's all right. Let's look at music. No. Movies. It's a mix. There are several famous Black directors. There are several famous Black actors. I believe that they're not really. You don't put. I don't know. What's a random white actor? You don't put Matthew McConaughey on top of, you know. I'm blinking on names right now. What the hell? You don't say white actors are better than Black actors. There are a lot of movies in which Black actors really, put their heart and their soul into a role. And, oh man, what's a really good one? Have you ever seen Radio with oh my goodness, I'm actually blinking on names right now. What is his name? Cuba Gooding Jr. He played in I think he was an autistic individual. Really, really it's like the Black version of What's Eating Gilbert Grape. That's what I like to compare it as. But phenomenal actor, phenomenal acting. Boys in the Hood, another great movie starring Cuba Gooding Jr. By the great John Singleton. Great movie. A great representation of Black youth inside of inner city areas like Los Angeles, which was the setting for that film.
Yo, I love you guys so much. I'm gonna be honest, but we are 2 hours and 30 minutes into this. When do you think is a good time to stop recording? Because my laptop is on fire.
I think we should stop recording after I'm done with this.
Okay.
Just to wrap it up. What are other like creative processes in which Black people are not like a significant part of? Like I can't think of one.
Writing.
Maybe writing. There were. I mean, before in the past there were a lot of famous Black authors. I know there was more women authors, but
Yeah,
I really
that's a good point.
but in past, I'm sorry, in the past yes, but currently I don't really. I'm not really familiar with some. The only thing that I cannot come up with, the only industry I can like really think of that does not have a major Black influence on is probably like design. No,
What?
not like fashion, not like fashion. I'm in like creative design, like like animated series or animated movies or things like that.
Okay.
I'm really blanking hard on that. Like Black artists, I like Black actual artists, like painters and stuff like that. I'm really blanking on for right now. I really can't think of any. I think that's the only industry I think they don't have a really significant hold on. But others, music, movie, television, fashion, they all have a really good place in them, and really big influences, especially to like the entire world. And if anyone wants to disagree with me, I'm all ears.
Um,
Thank you so much.
I don't know enough about fashion whatnot to
I actually went to high school with well, I didn't go to high school at the same time, but I went to the same high school as this individual, and he actually started his own clothing line. And he is, I think he was on Forbes or Vogue. I'm just looking up, but he was on one of the two. He was uh, his fashion line is called Head of State. I'm not really interested in it, but it's just someone that I know. I don't know him personally, but I just know of him.
Mhm.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Vogue.
all right.
It was on Vogue. Yeah, he
Ah,
was on Vogue. Articles titled "This Nigerian Designer's Work Reflects His Obsession with Books." Really, really great clothing. Not really my style, but it's really pleasing to the eye. I think his name was Taufik. I'm blanking on his last name, but I know his first name was Taufik. And I think that's all the time we have for right now.
yes. Okay. I would like to say, I believe this has went very well. Thank everyone that is joined in on the discussion. Just those that are here right now. Thank you, Queen Esther. Thank you, Mr. Minority. Carl Weezer, Captain the Captain, Barbican.
Oh, we
Thank you
giving
all
shout
for
outs.
participating in the first edition of Call In, the new iDebate podcast, taking place every Saturday.
Yay.
Please subscribe to the iDebate YouTube channel to hear more of this. Every Saturday we'll have some new discussion, some new topic. Either we'll be interviewing or, like now, discussing different genres, ideas. And that is all. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. And don't forget to join the Discord server if you're still listening. Thank you for staying for this long. Thank you guys
Thank
so
you guys.
much.
Good
We love
night.
you. Good night.